Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another recording of Human Resource Machine. So now that I've effectively probably scared off almost everybody, let's continue and go into the difficult puzzles. Now we can get down to just talking about programming and looking into some hardcore programming pretty much without having to go over the basics. It has come to our attention that the advocacy community felt the previous assignment was not inclusive. So the previous assignment on that chain was to leave out zeros and not outbox them. So they're upset about that, this community. This time, send only the zeros to the outbox. What happens to the other numbers and letters? Management leaves the detailed up to you. I send only the zeros to the outbox. Okay. Tell me more. Management values all numbers equally, even those numbers who have zero or negative values. And since the term negative can feel aggressive, we refer to those brave numbers to the left of zero as values of oppositely signed opportunity. Alright, so this might be a little difficult. You need to get a number. You need to test if it's zero. And since our code before was to skip if there's zero and then go back to that, then all we need to do is rearrange this code a little bit. Jump if zero and then jump here back to the beginning if it isn't zero. So any negative or positive number will not activate this and go here. It will just move on to number 3 and jump back to the top and inbox again. Now we do need to add a second jump here, and so now we're doing a little bit of ring around the rosy here. So if it is 0, we inbox it. If it's 0, it jumps here, outboxes, jumps back to the beginning. If it isn't, it just jumps back to the beginning and doesn't outbox. We don't need this at all. There's literally nothing you could do with any of this that would be faster or more efficient. I suppose if you wanted to keep the numbers, that would work. Actually, I think there might be even a cheat here, but you would have to know the exact number of zeros, because if you send out too many zeros or too few, the program won't succeed. And I bet it gives you a different number of zeros all the time. Because you could certainly just manipulate numbers to get 0. You could take 4, subtract it from 4 if you had a subtract command, which we don't yet. What's our optimization challenge? 5 or fewer commands, 25 or fewer steps. That's what we've got here is 5 commands. Let's go. Skip the 4, outbox is 0. So, as a program, not super efficient this. You're having to run a test against every single input, and that is not something that's going to add quite a few steps. That's where you start to see how the number of steps is really high, 28 steps here, for instance, to do something. There's actually probably a lower level assembly command that would work better than what this fictional jump of 0 would be. So we need to now take up less steps, so we just duplicate our code in that terrible fashion and run it again. And we could triple it and we could quadruple it, but we don't really need to. Let's just fast forward here. We'll probably go through a few puzzles in this until we hit one that actually challenges me. I also, of course, have the benefit of just having played this game, but I kind of consciously have already forgotten all the commands. So there we go, 25 speed challenge. Could get it lower. There's no real way to post your code or your success on the internet. This game is kind of missing some features it that for what it feels like a cell phone game would do well to have, sharing it to Facebook and saying, I did this in this long, can you do this? But you would only share that to Facebook if all your Facebook friends were into coding and programming. So, and frankly, I think those things are obnoxious, but there's no leaderboards, is what there needs to be. There needs to be a leaderboard. It would be so easy, too, to have something like that. So the next one is number 10 on the hard branch, which knows the hard branch just ends. It feels like it should just connect back, but they really want you to do both of them. So, but if you could do the hard branch, you could certainly do the other thing. You can always check your own performance on each assignment's optimization challenges. The two green lights next to each button in the elevator will tell you how you're doing. If there's anything in life more thrilling than self-improvement. For each thing in the inbox, multiply it by 8 and put the result in the outbox. Using a bunch of add commands is easy, but wasteful. Can you do it using only 3 add commands? Management is watching. Yes, I can. Tell me more. You might be wondering how you can self-improve if you're already perfect. Yes, I like to work on improving others. I find other people really appreciate that. Sure they do. So give me an example. If your inbox is 3, you need to multiply that by 8, so that would be 8, 16, 24. Negative 2 is multiplied by 8 would be negative 16. 2 times 8 is 16, and 0 times anything, including 8, is still 0. Notice we don't have the jump if 0 command, so we can't speed up the code. If we had jump if 0, again, 0 doesn't need to go through any more math. You can just outbox 0. So this is kind of what you could do. The first way you would do this would be to copy this to 0, put that 7 there, then add the 7 in your hand to the copy you put on the ground and get 21, and then you would have more add commands to add another 7 to 21, and you could just keep on doing that for 6 more times and have 8 add commands. But you don't need that at all. What you can do is simply add it once, so it's doubled. Then copy that 21, well, actually 7 would be 14. So take the 7, add it to the copy of the other 7, get 14, put it down. Then what you can do is take the 14 that you just put down, take a copy of that, and add it to the 14 you've got there. So 14 plus 14 is 28. That's also 4 times 7. And that will always be right. So then we copy that, 28 to this, and then we copy from that to this, and then we add to this, and that is the 8 times 7, which is a big number. And then outbox. And that's how you do it in 3 add commands. Is because you take the sum of your first doubling and put it down, and then take that sum and double it again. That's times 4, and then take that sum and double it again. That's times 8. So what is our optimization challenge for this? 9 or fewer commands. I've done it in, let's see, 11. And the reason why I've done it in 11 is because you don't actually need to copy from. So that's 9. Because you're going to copy it too, but keep the solution in your hand. So you don't need that. Let's watch it go. 7 gets put down. Gets added together, gets 14, put down, gets added together, gets 28 to give you 56. Which is right. That's what the noise means. -7 will give us -56. So we know that. Now what is odd here too is this is actually less steps than if we were to add it each time. Because there's no loops to unroll here. Now if this was a real programming language, you would certainly have a better way of doing that than this. But this works good for this. So that there's no way really to make that much faster using what we have. I could make it faster if I had a jump of 0 because I could go inbox jump of 0 to the outbox. But nothing else here has the ability to improve it. Now, real programming language would just have a command called multiply. Multiply times 8. So it would be inbox multiply. You'd be able to type in the number 8, and that would be your set as permanent stone in your code, and then you'd be done. So it'd be inbox multiply times 8, outbox, jump back to the beginning. Done in 4 moves. But this game doesn't ever do multiply. It makes you do multiply yourself, which we will be using practically all the way to the end of the game, is multiply and division, multiplication and division, as the basics of most of these programs. Next one is number 11. Let's see, that's sub hallway. Year 11. Subtraction? I never learned that in school. Did you? We're a good team. For each 2 things in the inbox, first subtract the first from the second and put the result in the outbox. And then subtract the second from the first and put the result in the outbox. Repeat. We've got a new command. Subtracts the contents of a tile from whatever value you're holding, which again, I think it's backwards. I think it should be subtract whatever you're holding from whatever's in the tile. But heck, it's their game. They can do it however they want. Tell me more. If I have 6 apples and you take away 2 apples away, what do we have? Well, my answer to this is always we have a fight. Although why I would fight over apples, I don't know. What's his answer? You have a workplace theft incident. So give me an example here. Give me an example. Yeah. If your inbox is 2, 9, send out 7, because 2 minus 9 is not 7. No. Subtract the first from the second, so 2 minus 9 would be 7, and then, no, 9 minus 2 would be 7, and then 2 minus 9 would be -7, and you continue doing that for the rest of them. You can see it's already a little confusing and is only going to be worse. So let's see. If we just start with this and do this, before we go too far, let's just run a simple first run here. So this certainly won't work all the way through, but it should be 4 should be the solution, I believe. Yeah, 4 is what we were trying to send, and we got instead, we put this here, and I put the subtraction in the wrong place, so let's try that again. It should be 4 again, I believe. Nope. That was right. That was right up to that point, but it wants more. Okay. So, here's what you would normally do. That's the code for that. Then what you would normally do is we'd also have to copy this number here, and then copy this number from this, and then subtract that number from that. So we'd have to copy from that. And we'll outbox this and see if these two codes are right. Put the 1 down. That's not what I meant to do. Or was it? Nope. That was not what I meant to do at all. I meant to copy this from the second inbox. It's already a little confusing, notice. So this one gets inboxed and copied here. Then this one gets inboxed and copied here. We subtract that, we get 2, that's right. And we just take this, subtract that, and we get that. And we get -2. So that is the right code. Is there a better way to do this? I don't think there is, really. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But since I'm not seeing any, I'm just gonna put the loop here and hit play. And let's just let it go. So I want to wait here till I get to the negatives. 2 negatives potentially could mess up anything. Negatives and zeros always are a red flag for me. There's, I think, a better way to do math, thinking number line math, which I certainly was not trained when I was in school. And because of that, the way I sometimes say things like a negative number minus a negative number turns into a positive is not the right way to think of it. It's the right, a negative number minus a negative number will just go further to the left on the number line. And understanding that concept and thinking that way about numbers is probably going to help you a lot better in programming than what I was taught, because I think I was taught a bunch of special cases and probably just the wrong way of things. It's kind of shocking how diverse and different your education can be depending on the time and place you went to school. So we did it though. We got that code and got both of the challenges. Let's move over to the final extra hard one on this branch, tetracontiplier. What a wonderful feeling when all your work over the last few years all comes together. See, he does look a little older, doesn't he? And it culminates in a well-executed assignment. For each thing in the inbox, multiply it by 40 and then put it in the outbox. 40? Really? Tell me more. Yes, even when a product of our labor is dumped into the waste bin in the next room, the important thing is that we take pride in a well-executed process. So they're basically saying it's just going into a trash bin on the other side. Give me an example. If your inbox is 2, send out 80. If your inbox is -6, send out -240. If your inbox is 5, send out 200. And if your inbox is 0, send out 0. It's really just the same thing again, I think. We inbox, we copy to this, and then we add, and then we copy to this, and then we add for 4 times, then we copy to this, and we add for 8 times, and also in the 8 times, copy it to this, and this. And why we need the 8 times is because you can't, I think, double it quite like you would want to. I think we're gonna hit 32. So we copy it again, and then that's 16 times. And then we copy it again, and that gives us 32 times. So see, next time we doubled again, it would be at 64, we want 40. So what do? We simply add the 32 to the to the 8 times, which we'll put over on this second one. Then we have 40, and we just outbox, and we just jump up, and there's not anything else we need to do. Is that the optimization of 15 steps? Nope. 14 or fewer commands. What did I have extra here? Inbox. Let's see, 16 plus 16, 8. Something's extra here. Let's hit play and see what it is. So 5 times 40 should be 200. Let's see what we get. 5 plus that is 10, plus that is 20, plus that is 40, that plus that is 80, plus that is 160, plus that is 200, and that's right. Negative 6 times 40 should be negative 320. Sorry, I did the math wrong there. Fortunately, my program didn't do the math wrong. You can't really go slower, and I feel like the play speed should be somewhere in the middle at the beginning, and then you could just slow it down even more. Because it's still not super slow enough, and stepping into the solutions is too slow. So that took 60 out of 56 possible codes, and it was 14. So there's obviously something wrong with my code. What is the action? So step. We go to the inbox, you have to do that. That's solid. We copy that to 0. That's solid. We add that. That's probably solid. We put that down. That seems good. We put that down. We add this. Now, this 40 needs to be copied here. And then there. And then that needs to be added. That's 80. That needs to be put there. And then we add that. And we add that. And that's 200. So what's the one command we could leave out? when we had 80 here, if we just added, like, let's see, if we added this, that would be 80, and then that would be 120. No, that doesn't seem like that would help. Interesting. What am I missing? It seems like it would be really simple. That there couldn't possibly be anything to change in this. It's like this. What if I, instead of just copying it to here, we added to it? Let's see, if we added 20 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5. So we put down 5, we add to the 5, and then we add it again 15. I don't see how adding more times would help. So inherently there's a problem also with how I'm gonna go about and record this series too, because if I start recording too late at night, or if I've been recording for too long, I'm just gonna get a little loopy in the brain. So I bet the solution to a few of you is pretty obvious. Like, what if instead of copying the 2, I just added 0 twice? And then instead of doubling that and that, we just did that. So 6 times 40 should be, that's what we're multiplying, should be 240. Let's see if this works. Oh, I'll be darned. I didn't need to copy it to the ground. I didn't need to add it. Instead, I simply needed to add 4 times here. And that saved me 1 step of process. Whereas in the other cases, because I'm trying to get to 40s times, these you couldn't, I don't think, make it more efficient. But this time you can. So let's skip to the end here and see how optimized that program was. And this is where you're seeing the true programming here, as it's just trying things a lot of times. And these challenges are too difficult also. They should give you a little wiggle room just in case. But I guess this is a brutal challenge to make you a brutally good programmer. I always hit the back button thinking it's gonna take me back to the screen, and it doesn't. Equalization room. Year 13. You've been working here for 13 years. 13 years in 2016 is a ridiculously long amount of time to be working anywhere. Really is. I worked somewhere for 5 years, and that felt like in a lifetime. Uh, Anywho, sometimes some numbers are bigger than other numbers, and sometimes they are the same. How can we know? I read about that here in this great book, Which Number Are You? For the aspirational zero. You can borrow it later. Get two things from the inbox. If they are equal, put one of them in the outbox. Discard non-equal pairs. Repeat. You've got comments. You can use them if you like to mark sections of your program. Now, comments should have been at the beginning and heavily influenced. Notice that this one says hello world, so that can go away. And uh, at most, I'll probably just use comments as markers and not really write anything in them because you have to draw with your mouse, or if this is a touch screen, so whatever you're trying to draw. Now, I want to point out something also with these comments is you can only do so many lines. So I've drawn all over this in a snake-like fashion on this. One. Let's go to this one now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. It must be in total because I know it eventually stopped me from drawing lines. Although maybe the fact that I'm just making dots is not limiting me. And so, seems like we can do as many as we want. You're also only limited to a certain number of these. So if we just do this all over it, after 15 or 16, you can't draw anymore. And it will just take the command right out of your list. So I don't understand why that is the thing. Why you would limit, see it's gone now. You get one, use that last one, you can't do any more. I don't understand particularly why that's the case. It seems very strange, but when you copy and paste it, these comments, these pictures, are converted at the bottom into like a little hexadecimal code. And because of that, they simply are probably trying to limit the amount here you can do. But I swear, I was numbering a really long program, and after a while, it said no more. You cannot draw any more lines. You can't. I was going like one. That's typically what you end up doing. Notice it also limits it down. So if you draw like a 2 like this, it's wide. But if you draw a 2 like a normal person, it's shorter. I don't know if that's really necessary. I guess it looks kind of cool and all, but that's it. I swear eventually though, it said I couldn't draw anymore, but maybe it simply is just trying to limit the length of the program. Of course your program could go on forever, or in theory at least. Trying to activate this, and why is... Because I was trying to write like something like cheater because I cheated on something, and then I said something like couldn't bother because it was too difficult. This was the very last puzzle. And here it is. See? After that many lines, I can't add any more. So, maybe that's because of the total number, or maybe it's just the number of strokes you can take. And you can't type, unfortunately. And for the computer version of this, that's terrible. That's really terrible. You can't even copy and paste it into the notepad, type in your comments in notepad, and have them show up here. Just use the clear button. So we just need to take care of that. Now we don't have comments all the way here. We can only put comments in the program. We also have tabs, so we can have different code here if we want, which the comments certainly help if you want to do something like put the number 1 at the top, I would suggest, and then on your second go, because you probably at some point while working on the program will say, let's start over from the beginning, put a 2 there, put a 3 here, and then maybe you come back and say this one works, so put a check mark next to it, or something along that lines. Tell me more. You're doing just fine. If you don't have a favorite, I don't have a favorite employee. I enjoy supervising them all equally. So, a lot of times the tell me more is nothing. Give me an example. Give me an example. If your inbox is 713233 -26 -5 -5, outbox D3 because these two are the same, and the -5 because those two are the same, and that's it. So this is kind of easy. Again, all we have to do is see if they're equal. Now, this is kind of the start of understanding how you would check if something is equal if you didn't have a very basic command in programming called equal. Not typed out equal, you just put the equal sign in almost every programming language and it will return if it's equal or not. Now, maybe in some Excel sheets or Google Sheets commands, you might use a command function that's where you type out the word equal and give 2 numbers, but most programming language, you just put the equal sign. Here, we have to do it the complicated way. We get a number, we copy it to this. What we do then is we get the second number from the inbox and we subtract it from the number that was the first number. If it happens to be 0, that's good. That means we could do 2 things. We could either copy this from that place because we know the numbers are the same and outbox it, or because we just subtracted, we can save ourselves the copy from command and just add it back up. Now that's a very important concept to understand, because if you don't understand that subtracting then adding the same number gets you right back to where you started, you probably won't be able to do some of the later puzzles, later programs, because, well, you would be able to do them if you have enough room to save the number originally, but it's a waste of time. If you subtract a number, then add that same number, you always get back to where you are. It is a fundamental law of mathematics, as long as you're talking about real world numbers and not some kind of fictional number that changes at random intervals. So let's watch it go. It's going to take the 3, put it down. It's going to take the 6. It's going to subtract it. It gets 3, that's not 0, so then it skips. Takes the 7, and it subtracts the second 7 from the 7 to get 0. Good. It adds the 7 to the 0 because that's always going to be 0, which also works. Uh, and then it outputs the 7. Now it takes the 6, subtracts the 6, adds it back together, and there, you're done. 13 years, and this is your assignment. Although, it kind of feels like you might very well spend your entire year trying to program this if you didn't know what you were doing or didn't understand programming. This could be a major problem. Notice the speed challenge took one more step than I would have liked for it. So, what do I need to do to eliminate a step? Well, it doesn't seem like I can do anything to eliminate a step. So the best thing that you can do to get that done is simply just duplicate your code. As you've seen me do before, you simply then put the same thing you had already put. But now you can take something like this and make a marker and use that as a splitter to say I need everything that's up here to look exactly like this, and that helps a little bit. Jump if 0 to this. You often will, because you have only jump if 0 and later they're going to give you jump if negative, you have no way of ever knowing if something's positive. There's no jump if positive, which is something you would kind of want. So anything that would be positive would simply end up here in the middle if you had a jump if negative above it. Right now it's gonna be everything that's positive or negative ends up right to this jump point, which you can click on and it tells you where that jump point is, which is also very helpful and necessary because the way these things overlap, you never really can be 100% certain whether this jump is landing here or here or here. It should use a bracket function where it does like a square bracket to this point and to this point, and then it does a slightly more inset bracket for the next jump and a more inset bracket for the next jump, instead of doing these curved lines, which look pretty but certainly don't help anything. Let's run it again and speed it up. It should certainly take a little less time. Interesting. Your solution works with those specific inputs, but it fails with other possible inputs. What did I do different? Oh, I forgot to add the add button here. So I missed something. That's why this is terrible coding right here. This is exactly why you would never duplicate your code and unroll it. Let a compiler do that. Let an optimization program do that. If you really, really wanted your code to run fast, you would probably be programming it in assembly language directly, which Steve Wozniak, one of the founders of Apple, programs in assembly language, or at least he did. I don't know if he still does. So you can see that was 26 steps. We could certainly triple it and take fewer steps. No real reward there. It feels like the game should have a hint system. It really does. That doing a puzzle should give you a certain number of coins or something where you could ask for help, ask for hints, or ask for solutions. Maybe I like in one of the games called Stacking that I've covered there's like a 3-hint system where it's like, we'll give you a vague hint, we'll give you a more direct hint, and then we'll just tell you exactly what you need to do. I think for a programming game, that would work well too. So we have the maximization room, but I don't think I want to do it in this recording. We can certainly check it out, and see what it is, but I don't think I want to do it in this recording. I think next time we'll start with this. It's going to get shorter and shorter, the number of puzzles, until we very easily may only spend an hour on one puzzle or 45 minutes on one puzzle. And at the end of that 45 minutes, I may very easily eventually just copy the solution that is saved in my other save file over to this one and see if I can explain what I did to solve that, which may be a challenge in itself. There's been a change of plans. The accounting department has determined that treating all numbers equally is no longer profitable. Management wants only big numbers now. Grab 2 things from the inbox and put only the bigger of the 2 in the outbox. If they're equal, just pick either one and repeat. You have a new command. Jumps only if things you're holding is negative, less than 0. Otherwise, the condition continues to the next line. So there's our jump if negative. So this is actually a little bit of a challenge. How do you figure out whether the 5 or the 6 is bigger? If you subtract 5 from 6, you'll get 1. If you subtract 6 from 5, you'll get -1. But how does that help you? Well, one of those was negative and one of those was positive, and that will be the case every single time except for when they're the same. Almost. 2 negative numbers, for instance, -9 minus -3 is 12, and then -3 minus 9 is 6, -6. So both of those results are still negative. So then the jump of negative isn't the final solution there. There's more manipulation we're going to have to do. And that's something to mull over for the next recording, because we're going to have to figure that out. This very easily could be the first puzzle that takes all of next recording. I'm certainly going to wait until tomorrow morning myself before I start covering it, because I've run into too late of a time to start recording today. And it's time to go to sleep. As you see here, there's a lot of more puzzles. If you make it to the blue, through the blue section to this point, I think you're a decent programmer. If you made it to this section, I think you have some interest and probably a little bit of skill in it. If you make it all the way to the end without looking up any solutions and understanding it completely without being confused or upset, well, then you're probably one of the best programmers in the world, I would say, because some of these are going to get really, really crazy, really, really difficult. We haven't seen it yet. The first branch is kind of easy, but it jumps. I wish there was a more gradual thing here. I wish there was 100 puzzles that had us do different things, but I don't know if even I could think of 100 programs that are drastically different, that would ask for different things to happen without getting into some crazy venues and asking for some things. You could always, instead of asking to multiply by 40, you could say, well, multiply by 50, 60, 70. You could certainly change those things a little bit, but the code would almost be exactly the same, or the same concept, at least. Anywho, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, Comment if you want to, and watch every second of my videos. All that helps out. If you want to support me further, you can click on my name, Rydo. On the right will be a blue button that says support this channel. Click it, make a donation. And if you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.